Another day and another news story that comes out about the Bears being the worst team in the NFL this upcoming season. This time around, it was by Louis Riddick. So let's talk about it. What is going on, yo? Faiz Sports Talk back at it with another video talking, of course, some NFL here to talk about the Chicago Bears. So if you're a Bears fan, people, make sure you hit the big red subscribe button down below. Make sure you follow me on my social media platforms. And as always, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time I drop a new video. So as I just mentioned, people, we've got another news story about somebody or something saying that the Bears are the worst team in the NFL for this upcoming season. This time around, it was Louis Riddick. He basically said it on ESPN on the show Get Up, and they basically asked a question of if the Bears are going to finish as the worst, all right, not one of, period, the worst team in the NFL. And you basically had to say right or wrong, as in, do you agree or not? And Louis Riddick said right. He agrees that the Bears will be the worst team in the NFL this upcoming season. Now, listen, why should we care about what Louis Riddick thinks? It's not about that. I mean, Louis Riddick is an analyst on ESPN. He's a former NFL player, and he's a guy who was and maybe still is in the running for a lot of GM jobs in the NFL. So it's not just some Joe Schmo talking here, right? And Louis Riddick is a guy I've watched, and I do respect and like his opinions. He's a smart guy. So for him to come out and say this, you know, that's why I wanted to talk about it. And here's my take on it. The Bears roster isn't good, but the Bears are not going to be the worst team in the NFL, right? Both of those two things can be true. You can still have maybe one of, if not the worst roster, and still not finish as the worst team in the NFL. And let me explain here why I disagree with Louis. The Bears, again, roster really doesn't matter as much as the schedule that the Bears have, right? The schedule the Bears have compared to what they had last season is significantly better, right? They have a top 5 schedule in terms of easiest, if you will, in the NFL. And so they're going to play a lot of teams that aren't very good. And so they have opportunities to get some easy wins. And again, when you are a bad team, I guess there really is not anything such as an easy win. But when you face another bad team, that's obviously ideal. Point I'm trying to make here is forget the roster for a second. The schedule alone will make it difficult for the Bears to finish as the worst team in the NFL because it's such an easy schedule, all right? That's number one. Number two, look, yes, this roster isn't very good. Bottom 5 roster, I get that. I've been critical of this roster, right? We know on and on about how the receiving core isn't good, the offensive line isn't good. We get that. But the fact is, you still have the potential to have a superstar at quarterback, right? We'll see how Justin Fields develops. But if he becomes what we all envision him to be, you would have a very, very good quarterback, okay? If he takes that next step. Again, potential. A lot of other bad teams don't have that. Atlanta doesn't have that with Marcus Mariota. I don't think Houston has that with Davis Mills. So we have that with Justin Fields. And then we take a look at the new coaching staff, right? At the new regime that has come in. Now, when you have a new coaching staff, there's a chance they could be bad, but then there's a chance they could be good too. Versus an established coaching staff that you've seen for years, and you know they are what they are. So this new regime with Matt Eberflus, they could be decent, right? We know after a few years what Matt Nagy was, and that was who he was, and that's why he got fired. And so there is a fact of unknown, if you will, with this new coaching staff. Who knows? They could get some good things out of this Bears team, right? Make some lemonade out of lemons. So that's the thing that I need you guys to pay attention to here is Louis Riddick and all these guys can come out and say that the Bears are going to be the worst team in the NFL. And I'll just tell you that there are very good reasons to believe otherwise. Even still, if it ends up being true what they say and the Bears are the worst team in the NFL, as long as Justin Fields develops, I really don't care because the Bears aren't going to win the Super Bowl this year. And that also means we're going to get the number one pick. So to me, this year isn't even about wins and losses. Yes, of course, everybody wants to win. But ultimately, this year is about rebuilding and developing Justin Fields. So Justin Fields develops, has a great year, right? For instance, let's say the offense takes a step ahead, but the defense is so bad that we lose a bunch of games because our defense can't stop anybody. Well, I will take that, because now you're giving me a number one pick, and I also still got Justin Fields who can develop, who has developed and has taken that step. So to me, this doesn't bother me much at all, right? I disagree with Louis, but it doesn't bother me at the end of the day because, like I said, if you are the worst team in the NFL, you'll get the number one pick. All I care about is the development of Justin Fields. That's it. That's all I care about. So let's see what happens. We're still a long ways away from football being played, but it's nice to talk about. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below as always. Thanks for watching.